art, when it's really working, it makes the world strange again. The best experience you can have with any art work, no matter what the medium, is to go away with more questions than you came.
Bill Henson is unwavering, both stylistically and in standing by his works. In a career spanning 40 years, he's garnered a lot of attention, both acclaim and criticism, and is about as close to a household name as an artist gets in this country. Hanging on these walls are photographs that he's been working on for the last 6 to 7 years, and it's the first new work he's shown during this time.
Well, I think the basic conversation is always the same. It's always about the sense of, what it feels like to sort of spend your life trapped inside your body, if you like. It's about all of those simple things that everyone understands, that everything you know about the world comes to you through your whole body, not just your eyes and ears. The human form, nature or architecture, they're two different things on the surface, but what's interesting is to find where they have something in common, the commonality of it.
The darkness in your photos is profound. In the landscape, sometimes it feels like there's the lightness and the dark are sort of having a battle almost, or the figures emerge from black. What's going on in those shadows?
With photography, it's often what goes missing in the shadows that animates that speculative capacity that causes us to kind of question, to wonder, what is this place? What's happening? Who are these people? You have to animate that suggestive potential in the medium. So yes, it's a tree or a mountain or the human face or a particular body, but how do you suggest more than what the camera just simply records?
The images are stark, beautiful, and to some, provocative. Henson works with young models. He has for decades, and not to everyone's liking. It's been 10 years since his show featuring nude images of a 13-year-old girl attracted both media and police attention. There was no evidence of nefarious activity, and Henson was largely absolved. For many people, this is old news, but for some, the cloud of controversy still lingers. Now, in this series, you're working with a male figure. Is that a deliberate point of difference from your previous work?
In the last 6 or 7 years, I've been mainly working with a couple of male models because that seemed to be necessary for the images that I had in mind. And it could be a female model tomorrow. I could be photographing Roman ruins in Turkey. It just depends on what I think I need. There are 2 different models in these pictures, and at their youngest I would have thought probably 12, 13, and I think at 18 would be 18 or 19 for the most recent picture.
You've said before that meaning comes from feeling. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think that sometimes the arrogance of a lot of theoreticians kind of gets in the way, and people end up thinking that meaning comes from meaning. But I think the nature of life on Earth is that you feel something, and that causes you to reflect upon it. If you don't feel anything much, you're not going to think much about it.
With that idea that meaning comes from feeling, when the feeling, say, looking at one of your works, is one of discomfort or ambivalence or doubt, what can we derive in terms of the meaning?
Well, it will mean, fortunately, a different thing to every person because you bring your own life's experiences to bear. And that's another great gift of art to civilization or society. It reinforces the priority of individual experience because there is no correct way of looking at Rembrandt. There's no correct way of listening to Beethoven. There's only your way.
The context in which we read many things as a society has been shifting. With the Me Too movement, we've been taking a second look at power structures and the way consent works within those power structures. With the opening of this show, Henson has been very clear about the fact that his personal convictions and processes won't be changing. But since this discussion is not black and white, it's not light and shadow, I invited him to explore some of the grey area. You're a powerful figure in the art world. Who do you feel, or to what do you have a responsibility? Is it to the subjects, your vision, the viewers? Do you feel that you have a responsibility to anyone or anything in particular?
Well, I think you have a responsibility to yourself, but it's to sort of produce the best or most interesting objects, whether they're pictures or whatever, that you can. The relationship you have with the people that you work with is important, and because it extends over such a long period of time, you know, you have an emotional interdependence, and so you have a kind of a sort of a sense of responsibility for each other. You know, and at one funny level, the models are, you know, a responsible, consider me in a responsible fashion. I mean, you know, they don't turn around and just say, oh, after 4 years, I think I'm, you know, bored with this now. You know, it's never happened. You know, there's a certain obligation. Well, we're working on a project, and so you kind of go on this journey together, and you can't make the picture without them, and they can't make the picture without you.
Do you think artists should be answerable to the concerns of the wider society that they work in?
Well, I don't think answerable is perhaps the kind of word that I would use. Where you have an imagination at work and how that impinges on the public space physically is always a fraught area. It's always a fraught question. There was a very famous conductor called Carlos Kleiber, who was very passionate, very eccentric, and one day he ran out of a rehearsal across the Ringstrasse and embraced a stranger, a woman, gave her a kiss, a passionate kiss, and then ran back into the rehearsal again, like out of the blue. I think there was a kind of an inquiry into it and so forth, and nothing happened. But one of the musicians in the Vienna Philharmonic in this documentary says, well, you know, we expect artists to pull these incredible things out of their imagination and to realize them in our world. And then we want them to go home and be a nice neighbor and a good husband. I can't imagine.